Shadowlands has been a tumultuous time for the World of Warcraft community. Many people left the game, they were unsatisfied with it, or they just stopped playing for whatever reasons. I was not one of these people, so I followed the story of the Shadowlands closely, and today I'm gonna be making a video which will delve deep into the whole story of Shadowlands so that you are prepared when Dragonflight finally comes out. This video is for people who want a quick recap of the story or just those who missed out on it and want to be prepared for Dragonflight. So let's start. We have three important things to talk about before the story of Shadowlands takes place. First off, Sylvanas killed herself somewhere around the time Deathwing came out of Deepholm, so at the very start of the Cataclysm. When she died, she met the jailer, who promised her that they can break the cycle of life and death together. They both saw it as unfair. He was the first arbiter and saw countless people's lives and how their souls in the afterlife were judged according to these arbitrary rules put in place by the first ones, the creators of the Shadowlands. The souls were being sent to a bunch of different afterlives, often separating families and judging people out of context. More on that later. And that drove him kinda mad, which is why he was kicked out, and after him they put in a mechanical arbiter in place. After the jailer's servants show Sylvanas how families are separated for all eternity, something she personally cannot handle, as family has been everything for her all her life, and now she's pretty much convinced. She lost her parents and her brother in the Second War, and the thought of being sent to the Shadowlands where she cannot see them ever again, even though they are out there somewhere, pretty much broke her. She is also super pissed that the Arbiter sent her to the Maw for doing all that bad stuff she was forced to do by Arthas, while sending people like Zul'jin, who is responsible for the deaths of her family members and many more by his own volition, no less, to Revengeth, where he can get penance. She decides to side with the jailer after deliberating it for years though. She didn't decide that she wants to join the jailer right away, but she decided somewhere around Legion when she became the war chief. Second thing we need to establish is that the Dreadlords are made by Sire Denathrius, the leader of Revengeth, who is sided with Zovaal, the jailer. Maybe. As you know, Dreadlords are very cunning and known for being deceitful, so who knows if Denathrius really serves the jailer. But that's a topic for another time. What is important is that Denathrius sent the Dreadlords to all different cosmological forces as spies, most notably to the plane of disorder. If a creature consumes too much of a type of magic, it will become a being of that type of magic. So the Dreadlords who consumed Fel became literal demons, which is why we see Dreadlord demons all the way back in Warcraft 3 and later in TBC and in Legion. There was also a void sect of Dreadlords who manipulated Sargeras into starting his great burning crusade. They showed him the soul of the world Argus, which is a titan. They told him that if Argus's soul was infused with death magic, it could resurrect Sargeras's demons from the twisting nether much more quickly than it would have taken them otherwise. This is very important later. The Dreadlords also gave Kil'jaeden the Helm of Domination and Frostmourne, which he used to imprison Ner'zhul at the end of Warcraft 2, but it was made by the Runecarver in Shadowlands. It was supposed to be used as a tool for the vessel who would start the jailer's conquest on Azeroth, as Azeroth is one of the most powerful world souls in existence and the jailer wanted her really bad. But it's been made quite clear that all of them, Ner'zhul, Bolvar and Arthas, were acting mostly to their own accord. Besides Arthas, who was often manipulated by Ner'zhul, but not by the jailer. The jailer started manipulating his vessels later on with Anduin, which we will talk about later. The third thing that we need to talk about is the death of Argus. Now you remember that I said that Argus was infused with death magic. Well, when we killed him in Legion, that broke the Arbiter, because a being such as Argus was not meant for the Shadowlands. The Titans, who are beings of order, have their own realm of existence, but because Argus was infused with death magic, he became a creature of death, and then, as such, when he died, he would have been sent to the Shadowlands, which did happen.
The world's soul twisted by death, a maw with which to crush the Arbiter.
And then the breaking of the Arbiter caused all the souls to be sent to the Maw instead of their rightful afterlife. This empowered the Jailer and Sylvanas a lot. Okay, so now we're gonna be talking about the actual Shadowlands. And actually, before we talk about the Shadowlands, we should be delving a little bit of a look into Battle for Azeroth. So to empower the Jailer and herself, the Jailer instructed Sylvanas to cause as much death as possible. Thus, the Fourth War began after Legion, which is central to most of the plot of Battle for Azeroth. After Battle for Azeroth, she goes up to the Icecrown Citadel, fights Bolvar and breaks the Helm of Domination. The Helm of Domination is tied to the Shadowlands, and every time you break an artifact of power, that power pretty much goes back to where it came from, and as such, a surge of energy burst from the Helm after it was destroyed, and it literally broke the barrier between Azeroth and Shadowlands. Now what you need to know about are the sigils of the Shadowlands. There are 5 of them, 1 for each of the Covenants, plus 1 for the Arbiter. You need all 5 of them to open a way into a place called Zereth Mortis. Zereth Mortis is a literal cornerstone of death, the place where the first ones made the whole of Shadowlands. At the very heart of it lies the sepulchre of the first ones, which is kind of a nexus point between all 6 Zereth realms, 1 for each cosmic power. The Jailer wanted to use the sepulchre to establish his own rules of reality. He also needed the soul of Azeroth, which is a world soul with a lot of potential to be used as fuel for something like that. But first, the sigils. As he couldn't personally get the sigils himself without going on a huge offensive, he needed pure souls that he could send to each of the realms that would gather the sigils in surgical precision assaults. To this end, he told Sylvanas that she should choose worthy people of Azeroth. She chose Bane Bloodhoof, Anduin Wrynn, Jane Proudmoore, Thrall, and Tyrande Whisperwind. All of them got set free in the intro for the Maw, except of course Anduin. All the stuff in 9.0 happens, Covenant campaigns and the attack on Castle Nathria, where Renathal binds Denathrius inside Remornia, which is Denathrius' sword, hoping to give him a penance as Revendreth does for all the souls that come there. During 9.0, Sylvanas tried to convince Anduin to join them as she saw her brother in him. However, when all else failed, Anduin was completely dominated by the Jailer using domination magic, which is a twisted form of the language of the first ones. It was made by the Primus as a means to imprison Zovaal when he wanted to reshape reality back when he was just the Arbiter. He also got a sweet new weapon called Kingsmourn that was made with the soul of Arthas. This is where 9.1 happens. Anduin goes on to Elysian Hold and gets the sigil of Kirestria, who is the leader of Bastion. Sylvanas launches an assault on Ardenweald and gets the sigil from there. Denathrius gave his sigil to the Jailer at some point before Shadowlands, and we find the sigil of the Primus cause an investigation that leads us into Torghast, where it is revealed that the Rune Carver is the Primus all along. Since we have the sigil with us there, Zovaal just comes along and takes it from us pretty easily. Now all that's left is the sigil in Oribos. But before that, some semblance of order is finally brought to the Shadowlands. The Kyrian changed their philosophy of wiping memories. The Maldraxxi finally have some order after that whole civil war thing that was happening. Revendreth is much more stable, and in Ardenweald we finally get an answer as to why Elune let the Teldrassil burning happen. She sensed the drought in Ardenweald and let the burning of Teldrassil happen because she thought the souls of the Kaldorei there would help her sister, the Winter Queen, and Ardenweald as a whole. It is also revealed that Elune is a member of the Pantheon of Life. Tyrande also lets go and is cleansed from the Night Warrior's power that could have easily killed her eventually. Another big thing that happens is that the Dreadlords take Remornia, which still has Sire Denathrius bound inside, and take him someplace. We still don't know where he is or what he plans to do, but it's safe to assume he will come back with a vengeance. Before the jailer tries to strike at Oribos, the Covenants unite and launch an assault at the very heart of Torghast, the Sanctum of Domination. We get to the very top of Torghast and fight Sylvanas, but before we can beat her, the jailer sends out chains to Oribos. We chase after them on these chains and eventually end up in the Arbiter section of Oribos, where we actually lose, and the jailer manages to obtain the last sigil, and also gets a sweet new armor. He spouts about how everyone will serve him. Sylvanas vowed to never ever serve anyone again after all that crap she went through with Hartas, and the jailer assured her before that they are partners equal. So now she's pissed, she sends out an arrow at him in protest. Obviously it wasn't gonna do anything, it was a sign of protest. The jailer then tells her that it's a pity, but she did help him get something that was his, the Arbiter's Sigil, as he used to be the first Arbiter. So he gives her back the part of her soul that Frostmourne took and leaves for Zereth Mortis. So a big thing that's important is that when a Morn Blade is used on a living mortal, the soul will basically be separated. One part of the soul will go to the Shadowlands, while the other part of the soul will go into the Morn Blade, which is why Uther's soul was separated, and you know, that's basically what happened with Sylvanas as well. But now her soul is united, as part of her soul that went to the Shadowlands was in fact kept in storage basically by the jailer. Sylvanas then goes into a deep coma which she cannot wake from for a while, but in the meantime, what we do is that we manage to slowly reforge 5 sigils, and we manage to follow the jailer to Zereth Mortis, where we chase after him and Anduin, who is at this point still completely dominated. We manage to free Anduin, beat the jailer using the reforged Helm of Domination, now called the Crown of Wills, that is able to resist the jailer's domination magic, which is like 80% of why he is so powerful and why we even managed to beat him later on. We also get a new arbiter, Pelagos from Bastion. The reason why Pelagos became the arbiter and not some, you could say, more worthy soul is simply because he was at the right place at the right time, and he made a choice to take this burden upon himself. Since Legion, WoW is pretty big on not having stories with specific chosen ones, so this is a reflection of that. Just a dude who is willing to step up to the task at the right time. He vows to never ever send souls to the Maw ever again. Then comes the judgment of Sylvanas. Instead of judging her himself, Pelagos lets Tyrande do it. She sends her to the Maw, where she will have to free every single soul that was ever sent there, back to the Arbiter, where he will judge them. Sylvanas then jumps into the Maw, and that's that. Then we have a few epilogue questlines regarding the fates of our main characters. Anduin pays a visit to Sylvanas, and they have a very touching moment, especially if you read the Sylvanas book. The souls of the Kaldorai lost during the burning of Teldrassil empower the Queen's Seed, which gives it both the powers of life and death, and it will be used to make a new world tree for the Kaldorai. It's not said exactly where, but it's kinda hinted that the place where it will be planted is somewhere around the Dragon Isles. On the Horde side, Undercity has been liberated, the Kaldorai Dark Rangers are allowed to go back to the Alliance if they so wish, and Kalia Menethil joins the Forsaken leadership. Well, what happens next? As it seems, there will be a prequel novel to Dragonflight, so the story will probably pick up from there. After that we got Dragonflight itself, where we will seemingly be getting a time skip at some point according to some data mining, but it's really hard to say with only having some dialogue strings, and I myself don't really follow data mining as I find that it kinda ruins my fun for the expansion. Thank you very much for watching, leave a like if you learned something new, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to ask any questions you might have in the comment section below, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Peace.